Hello and welcome to Mad Goes Racing, and today we're back in AMS2 having a look at the latest update, which is the version 1.3.6.1. Now the last one I covered was the 1.3.5.1, so I'll have to do a quick run through of the changelog from 1.3.5.2 before we go to 1.3.6.0 and then 6.1. I think I got that right. Right, 1.3.5.2 changelog. General added a 1 second delay before ERS auto mode is considered settled enough to be used as the new base mode for cycling mode, and overshoot into auto now means navigation up the stack will select off if done within 1 second. Added ERS deployment mode and clutch state information to shared memory. Hopefully whatever software you might have associated with that has been updated to take that into account now. UI and HUD added ERS auto mode indication to HUD. Fixed ICM issue that only allowed selection of the first 2 pit strategies. Audio. Formula Retro G3TE revised cockpit engine and turbo. Assigned proper interior AI sound. Tracks. Galileo. Revised track according to actual event references, adjusted track elevations between T1 and 2, replaced the start light gantry to match one used in actual event, updated static concrete barriers, walls and dynamic cones, adjusted AI collision corridors at the chicane. Vehicles, Uno, all cars, added dirt map, adjusted driver animation fingers position, added vibrating bits on the cockpit, adjusted the shift gator rigging. Corvette C3 livery override folder added. McLaren MP41C added a tyre side texture rotation issue. Sorry, fixed it, not added it. Did I say added? My brain. Battle Moro MRXP2 added 1 new livery. Now, if my little Amazon tablet will play ball with me. Right, 1.3.5.2 to 1.3.6.0 changelog. General. Fixed an issue that would lead to incorrect session times being applied to non-race session on championship load. Fixed incorrect pit window opening lap in custom championship and ensured minimum session scaling accounts for mandatory pit setting. Fixed a number step issue when changing a race 1 session start time in a custom championship. Added static wheel option to cockpit drive wheel setting and prevented wheel ever being displayed when off selected. FFB profile slots now reset on every return to pits. Clutch damage is now repaired when engine damage is repaired. Fixed some cases where clutch could incorrectly receive damage when auto clutch is enabled. Added mandatory FFB fade in on session start out of pits, now applied always after unpausing the game. Fixed an issue that could leave Formula Ultimates in a broken state after viewing instant replay. Corrected 2022 Stock Car Pro Series Championship calendar. Updated shared memory project header to V12, adds clutch state and ERS deployment mode info. UI and HUD. Added filter functionality to multiplayer browser. Updated Imola and Galileo track maps to reflect the latest changes. Some words I look at and my brain goes, that's that, and then it goes, no, it's not. Onboard TC/ABS adjustment input messages are no longer displayed when those systems are unavailable. Change the text to the 4 options of the display cockpit wheel driver settings to less confusing names. Always helpful to not confuse people with your naming. Physics, further tyre carcass and tread adjustments for GTE, GT3, GT4, GT1, DPI, P1, Formula Ultimate Gen 1 and Gen 2, revised all slicks tread sensitivity to wet surface. Super V8, revised tyre model, suspension, inertia, included real life setup options for springs, ride height, camber, rear wing, tyre pressures, engine inertia, and added flexible axles. Added 3.27 to 1 final drive ratio for Bathurst, slightly raised rear roll centre, adjusted spring rate range to match real-life car springs and options. Adjusted heating and inertia slightly in 80s and 90s Formula clutch and Super V8. Cobra truck revised driver line elasticity. Reduced flash heating in basic road and carbon clutches. Cadillac DPI removed application of slow to fast dampers. Remodelled third element. Adjusted suspension travel to add bump stop functionality, main and third element. Balanced aero stroke ride heights to remove squatting. Adjusted tyre pressures to suit new carcass model. Remodelled damping and springs ready for beta. Revised drafting and dirty air model. Fixed atmospheric wind not being applied to some aerodynamic surfaces. Added a non-linear clutch wear effect on performance. Clutch damage is no longer scaled with damage scale setting. Added clutch damage, revised torque capacity and revised clutch inertia to all cars except TSI Cup and Arc Camaro. Added flexible axles and revised overall elasticity of GTE, GT3 and GT4 stock car, Brazil 2019 to 2022, Copa Montana P2 Ultima Race, Formula Ultimates, Corvette C3, Corvette C3R, Stock Car Omega, Group A and BMW 2002 Turbo. Stock Car C3R always sounds like it should be a Star Wars robot. Globally revised draft stroke dirt air properties for all high performance cars. Added clutch damage, revised torque capacity and revised clutch inertia to all cars except TSI Cup and Arc Camaro. Added flexible axles and revised overall elasticity for GTE, GT3 and GT4. Stock Car Brazil 29. Am I reading something twice here? Because I'm sure I just read all that. I did. But I'll carry on. Brazil 2019-2022, Copa Montana, P2, Ultima Race, Formula Ultimates, Corvette C3, Corvette C3R, Stock Car Omega, Group A, BMW 2002 Turbo and Porsche Cup. I think they've just added 3 cars on the end of that lot. Revised engine inertia for Porsche Cup, Cadillac DPI, Ultima Race, GT1, Stock Car Brazil 2019-2022 and Copa Montana. Formula Ultimate, both gens, adjusted body drag coefficients for more accurate top speeds and overall performance, revised throttle map, fuel consumption and engine inertia, corrected fuel tank size, increased downshift blip to help drivability, revised ERS mapping, increased contrast between attack and quali mode, Monza Spa energy saving to stay within per lap discharge allowed. ERS torque is now applied to beginning of driveline instead of wheels. Revised default setups and minor physics adjustments for Metal Morrow HAR, Generator G58, Porsche Cup, Stock Car 2019, BMW M4, BMW M8, Corvette C8R, Cadillac DPI, Porsche Cayman GT4 Cayman. To better suit latest carcass revisions, setup reset required. AI fixed an issue where custom AI driver track specific overrides would only apply to single model within a class. Increased likelihood of AI mistakes in qualifying hot laps. Added dedicated driver names for F3 Formula V10 Gen 1, Formula Retro Gen 1. Stock Car 2019 corrected Diego Nunes driver name. Imola updated AI lines and corridors, toned down AI performance with slicks in the wet to match latest physics revisions for player slicks on a wet surface, reduced AI rolling resistance in Formula Ultimate, both gens, and GT3. Audio, Porsche Cup updated onboard sounds, Formula Retro G3 TE, assigned proper interior AI sound, increased volume of turbo whine. Tracks, Galileo, fixed lap not counting when pitting, added dynamic brake markers, cones, pit signs, corrected max AI participants to 31. Laguna Seca improved rolling starts. Campo Grande lod fixes, Alton Park minor lod fixes. Jacopagua adjusted garage positions for larger vehicles, clipping pit all on oval and SCB layouts. Donington added variable crowd attendance per session, lod fixes in GP layout. Imola reduced track cut limits on concrete runoffs, minor graphical tweaks, fixed inaccurate latitude and longitude of Imola was pointing to the Imola city and not to the Imola racetrack, updated DRS and S2 trigger points, Santa Cruz, a lot of fixes. Spa Francorchamps, fixed a hole in the interior garage wall, minor lot of fixes. Updated trackside cameras for all Hockenheim historic tracks. Vehicles, TC Classic stroke hot cars, added sponsors to all Passat, Puma GTE, Puma GTB and Fusca liveries. Puma GTB added dirt map, adjusted lights, materials and textures, added lights, UV maps, added the cockpit gauge lights, adjusted the shift gator rigging, adjusted cockpit vibrating mirrors parameters, adjusted collision detectable wobbling hood. Detachable wobbling hood. Read fail. Cockpit truck added dirt map to Mercedes, VW and MAN models. Puma GTE. It's getting late in the day, my brain's fading. Added dirt map. Puma P052 added dirt map. Formula Classic G1M2 added dirt map. Adjusted carbon material UV maps. CH3 dirt on Lot A and cockpit. Redone the suspension animations, adding visual camber. Fixed the RR axle mesh skin. Version 1.3.61 changelog. General corrected Stock Car Pro 2022 Championship schedule as per latest adjustments. UI and hard. Updated steering lock help text. Cleaned up empty rows from a vehicle assignments list. Fixed FFB graph anchor on telemetry HUD. Physics adjusted GT1 soft, Formula Ultimate Gen 2 medium and hard tread coefficients to tone performance gains from carcass revisions. Minor adjustments to the Cadillac DPI GT1 P1 driverline elasticity. Revised front wing splitter draft effects for generally higher downforce loss behind another car. Keep that in mind when you're sitting behind another car going around a corner and you suddenly go drifting off the side of the track. It's because they've reduced the downforce or increased the loss behind another car. Further revisions to tread sensitivity to wet surface in high performance slick tyres. Minor adjustments to Super V8 and G58 FFB parameters. Revised engine heating, cooling and wear rates for stock car Impalas, Amiga, Corvette C3 and C3R, Camaro OSS, Formula V10 Gen 1 and Gen 2, Formula V12, Formula Classic Gen 3, Formula Trainer, Puma P052, Sigma P1 and Giannetta G58. Formula Ultimate, both gens, slightly increased rear wing drag from incremental settings. Super V8, further revisions to engine inertia, fuel consumption and fuel mix settings. Formula V12, fixed fuel tank size. Formula Classic Gen 1, revised fuel consumption. Formula Trainer, updated clutch type. McLaren 720S, adjusted default coast ramp diff and preload values. Audio, fixed relative sound effects volume, going out of balance for low master volume settings. Porsche Cup, further adjusted interior sound, added low RPM gear shift clunk in contrast to more aggressive at speed sound. Fixed loss of engine sound below 1500 RPM on throttle. Adjusted upshift volume on higher revs, updated RPM limiter sound, fixed missing AI sounds. Formula Risa, adjusted gear shift sound for all views, revised road noise volume for several cars. AI, added Formula Retro Gen 2 and Gen 3 custom AI driver entries. Donington, updated AI lines for both GP and national layouts. Tracks, Donington re-exported curb bollards to fix excessive damage caused to cars by hitting them. Mind the bollards. Vehicles, Porsche Cup updated liveries, Formula V3, V3, that would be a weird one, wouldn't it? Added dirt map to F301 and F309. Formula V10 Gen 1 added dirt map. Copa Montana fixed livery override for windscreen, and so ends the reading. Now, one of the things that has changed quite a lot in all of that was the old Super V8, which is basically the Aussie V8. So what I thought I'd do is take a wander, come on, round Bathurst, in the Super V8. I'll set the date to whatever the default is, I think, yeah. So it's 1st of February, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, bit of light cloud, so, and I've set it to heavy rubber, just because I like some rubber. So let's see what it does. God, the old camera didn't like that a lot. It was very hesitant there for a moment. Now, as I said, make sure you've got rid of all your old setups. Now, I did try this the other day, and I'm trying to remember what I did, because I thought it was a little bit twitchy still. But I am going to drive it as absolute default as is. So, it's got stone cold tyres. Just checking to make sure I've got the right amount of, yep. Nothing worse than thinking, oh, my steering wheel's not quite set right here. Right, so we will carefully come out of the nice stone cold tyres, but we'll soon warm those up. Whoop. It might be a bit overly sensitive still in the steering department, so that was what I did the other day when I was playing around, was I actually changed the steering lock a bit. So if I crash, I will be blaming the steering rather than a driver. Yeah, it definitely feels a little bit too lively. I think the default is 18 degrees of steering lock, and I think I went actually all the way down to 10 just to test it. But compared with how horrible it was to drive, a while back, I say horrible, but I didn't actually mind it too much. It was just one of those extremely tricky to drive cars that didn't really do what you wanted it to most of the time, which is always something you don't want happening when you're trying to drive a car, is you want it to do what you want it to do, not what it wants to do. So oh yeah, I think the other thing I did was open the brake ducts up to 100%, because the brakes definitely get a bit toasty on the front. You want to stay on the bottom there. It's quite easy to actually get them completely red. It's like everything else, if you get used to the slightly twitchy, is that the right word I'm looking for? The quick steering, I think, is probably the better term to use. But yeah, I think a little bit less steering lock definitely wouldn't go amiss. But definitely, compared with a few months ago, it's definitely a lot easier to drive. I say a few months ago, a couple of days ago, in fact, really. I haven't said that I did drive it in the beta build, so I have been driving it for a day or two in the beta build just to try it out, and went, well, that's actually quite nice now. But like I said, you really don't go down first here. I don't know whether it's because I'm recording, but it seems a bit stuttery today. So, oh, that's where you get it wrong. Don't do that. turn the bit box. I just hide that a minute and see if it actually makes any difference to that stuttering. Because that's actually quite bloody annoying. Oh, I think actually whilst I'm thinking about it. Return the bit box and edit setup, and let's have a look. What was it? Set to 18 degrees. I'm going to go down to 14 and try that. Probably doesn't help that I'm using the Formula wheel, which is yeah. Should probably have used a slightly more rounded wheel, as that's sort of more your GT style wheel than, or I should say, a more classic GT style. Right, let's try that again. Does feel a little less mental in the steering department, so that's definitely makes it feel like it's not trying to get away quite so much there. I'm not sure if that particular drop over there is slightly different on here to what it is on some of the other sims, but I don't seem to have as many problems with going over it in other sims as I do in this. So whether it's just me being cack-handed, oh, that's not good. Must remember to let our tyres warm up before I try and brake though. What was I saying about this was easier to drive? Let's try that again. Still got no heat in the front left tyre really. I'm assuming I'm on the soft slicks, not the mediums. Good question. Am I on the softs? Or even the hards, I think, are the options. Might just be that I haven't driven it for a day or two and I'm feeling a bit out of sorts, but there you go. Brake balance is set to. It does feel like it's a little bit far forward, maybe. Or far back, I should say. Back front, what's the difference? See if I can get the braking a bit better and I do wonder if I'm getting a sort of weird snatchiness with the brakes because it's getting too hot in the front, so it's giving a bit of fade on the fronts, and then the backs are going, yeah, we're fine. So they work and the fronts stop working quite as efficiently, and of course that suddenly moves the brake balance back a lot. So like I said, I did have another change, which is to open the vents to 100% on the front, or the brake ducts I should say. That ain't working, that ain't working. That was one of those, how the fuck did I avoid the wall moments there? Because I'm not sure how I avoided that. That was one of those, lots of luck and a little bit of judgment. Well, I have to say, it's still not the easiest car in the game to drive, but it's definitely a lot easier than it was, and a lot less mental than it was. Like I said, it's a few days since I've driven it, so whether I'm just need a few more laps to get used to it again, I don't know. Brake's certainly a bit snatchy into there. It's because there's a nasty little bump just as you're going through that last little fast right. It's I don't recall feeling in somewhere something like ACC. It doesn't appear to have that bump there, so whether it's something in AMS2's model, I'm not sure if this is same mesh that's used for Project Cars 2 or not, but we'll try one more lap and see if we can actually get a lap without making the balls up of it. Oh, fucking hell, I opened my mouth, didn't I? Well, that didn't quite go according to plan. I mean, I drove it the other day, it was fine, so it might just be me today. It's a bit late in the evening, my brain's not in the right place for this particular car. But yeah, it's it might be one that you just need to do a little bit of tweaking to get it to your satisfaction, but I did dozen laps in it the other day without even crashing it once, which is like, okay. So, but like I said, I did make a couple of other changes. I actually lowered the steering ratio even further. I think I was actually using a different rim as well, so whether that has any bearing on it at all, I don't know. And I also adjusted the brakes, so the front ducts were open 100%. That seemed to even up the brakes a bit more, so that might help. Because what happens, I think, is your front brakes get to a certain temperature and their efficiency goes down. Because their efficiency goes down whilst the rears are still in the right ballpark, you end up with this sudden, the front brakes are slow, sort of fading whilst the backs are still working at the same percentage as they were before. So effectively, you've moved your brake balance back quite a large amount. So yes. It's better. It's still one of those. It's always going to be a tricky car to drive. But there you have it. Me being a pretty piss poor driver tonight. So, but as far as all the other things that are going on, it's all going in the right direction. The tyre changes, especially the carcass changes, are definitely making a huge difference to what you can feel through the car. But of course, as soon as they change the carcass of the tyre, that's part of the suspension effectively. So you have to make changes to the rest of the suspension, probably to adjust for the fact you've got less spring effectively, or less, potentially more damper, whichever, in your tyre. So you have to compensate by adjusting your dampers, etc., and your spring rates to adjust for the changes. So they're obviously, every time they change the tyre carcass and tread, they then have to go back and redo the setup, and they might have to go for a completely different set of ranges for springs, dampers, etc., to compensate for it. They've also added lots of things like all the clutch damage. So if you abuse the clutch now in certain cars, you'll find you suddenly won't be going anywhere because your clutch has stopped working. So it's a dead clutch. It is no more. So from me, for now, that's all. I don't know how long a load of bollocks that was, but that'll do. And have fun, enjoy racing, and try not to kill yourself too often in one of these. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye.